Heidi ho, everyone, and happy Monday to you. It's a wonderful way to start the week, isn't it? Or is Sunday better? I'm not 100% sure. Actually, I prefer Sunday because you don't have to go to work there. Well, some of us don't. Hello, I can see Ash
Hey,
in the
buddy.
room. How you going,
How you
bud?
doing, man? Yeah,
Oh,
good.
are we videoing today? We're videoing today, aren't we?
Yeah, we're here. How you doing, man? You all
I,
right?
I just remembered to put some clothes on. Thank goodness.
um,
I'm going okay. How about you?
yeah, pretty good, mate. Pretty good. Got some ideas for the week, and it looks like an interesting start to the week actually already. Are we live on everything?
We are live on everything.
Oh,
Well,
brilliant stuff.
apart from the porn channel, as far as I'm aware.
Give it time, mate. Give it time. We
Yeah.
progress. We will progress.
What can I
Um,
say?
So now we can't. Is there any way we can have both on screen at the same time? It's a shame that we can't have a proper chat.
Aren't we?
No, not on YouTube. No, I didn't get a haircut. Sign. I haven't, mate. No, I'm still.
Oh, there's only you. Okay, I see.
Yeah, or you,
Or me.
or you.
Either
Yeah.
one.
No, I mean we'll figure it out as we go.
What
Um,
can I say?
So no, mate, I didn't get a haircut. I didn't get a haircut, not yet. I might go this week though. I might go this week if I can muster up the courage to go. So we're gonna have a slightly different format, I think, mate. We're gonna be on camera, obviously. We're gonna be doing trades live. We'll talk about some of the ideas for the week in a moment as well. But let's start with a pound trade, and from here on in, I think what we're gonna do is start journaling the trades when we get to the US session. We're going to sort of start logging down the trades so we can see how profitable the trades on this particular show is, and give you guys some proper evidence of some of the profitability of the trades. Now we will log the pound trade, but by the same token, we have to understand that this is in beta test mode, so it is still a trade in production, and it might need some tweaking, but that's also something we can do as we go. So let's get to you, mate, and do the pound trade. Put the pound trade on, and then we'll go and start doing other bits and pieces from there. I wonder if we can lower that screen down to the bottom as well.
What screen?
When we talk, we're at the top of the screen, but it'd be quite nice to get it at the bottom. Don't know how you do that.
No, pass.
Okay.
Okay. Am I sharing? I'm probably not yet.
You are sharing, mate. Yeah.
Am I? Oh, I was from the get-go, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Now I got it. Righto, guys, we've got an entry, well, potential, unless the pound moves very, very swiftly in the next, 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. We'll be entering long at 1.2785, which I've now got up there. The stop loss will be, we're only trading this bar, mind you, because the three candles that precede UK session are all encapsulated by that one bar. So 1.2763 will be the stop loss. And it will be Vicky Verky for the sell. So we'll put that up as well. 1.2763 will be the sell. And the stop, and the stop loss will be 1.2785 at this point, that is. It may change in the next few seconds. I'll adjust the TPs in just a minute for you. As we tick it over, I'll explain for those of you who are in for the first time. Firstly, welcome to you. Nice to have you on board. This is, as Ash has said, okay, those levels are now okay. I'll place the order. Oh, by the way, we're still in last Monday's short as well. I have tightened my stops up on that a little bit. I'll go through that in a bit. Okay, new trade. We'll enter the buy first. Again, this is in beta test mode. Do not put any meaningful money on this. If you want to put a little bit of a dabble on it, then that's fine, but don't go nuts. 1.2785 and 1.2763. Okay, the buy order is in place. Now the sell. 1.2763 and 1.2785. Hello. Oh, try again. Okay, both are in the market now. Let me explain again for those of you who are in for the first time. Welcome aboard. It's nice to have you here. This is basically a breakout of the previous 3 bars. In other words, the last 3 bars prior to London Open. Now, actually, we do have a rule around this, and I better just check it. We've got to take profit before a meaningful support or resistance level, and our take profit level here would be 20 to 11 pips. So if we haven't got 11 pips before the weekly pivot, we have to adjust that, and we don't. So we have to adjust our TP1 to either 8 pips or we don't take the trade. I'm okay with taking that trade, that's fine, but our TP1 would then become 1.2793. At which point you will remove half, or I will remove half, and I'll move my stops 9 pips from entry. So the new stop loss would be at 1.2776, and TP2 will be double our risk. Now, our risk on this again is 22 pips. So our TP2 would be 44. So we add 44 to that, and we get 1.2827. Did I say 42 or 44? 44, sorry. It should be 1.2829. That will be TP2. Too early in the week to be doing maths. All right, that's for the buy. Now, obviously, if we're triggered on the buy, we cancel the sell. And we haven't been triggered, have we? No, we have not. If we get entered in the long, we cancel the short, right? So the short TP1 would be, again, 9 pips, which would make it... Actually, no, it won't, because we've got more room down here. It'll be 11 pips. Half of our risk. So the TP1 on the sell would be 1.2752. The reason we cut our TP1 back 2752, sorry. I'm a man. I can't do 2 things at the same time. 2752, and TP2 would be 44 pips below there. So 1.27, did I say 44? 19, 1.2719. I think I'm happy with that. All right, let's go with TP2 at 2.7, 1.2719, 1.2752. That all looks honky-dory. Okay, we now just have to wait for an entry. So if you don't understand that, those of you who are new, then please put into the chat box, and Angel will tell me exactly what you are.
Can I just have the you mind if I have the buy numbers again, mate? The buy and the buy stop loss. Everything else I've got. Yep.
Buy stop entry is 1.2785. The stop loss
1.2785. Yeah.
Stop loss 1.2763.
763. Okay. Take profit is 1.2793. Take profit 2 is 1.2829. I got that.
Yep.
And then the sell. Sorry, it was the sell I didn't have.
Okay, 1.2763 is entry.
Oh, same as the buy stop loss.
On this occasion, it is, yes.
And the sell stop loss is the same as the buy order.
Yep.
Great. Okay, got it.
And you got the TPs on that one as well. Yep.
Right. Sino, yeah, do you know what? We are going to be journaling everything from now on in. We're going to be journaling all trades that we're going to take on the show.
Nowhere to
Because
hide.
nowhere to hide. No, we want to kind of, I mean, for our own records as much as anything else, but we want to teach you guys how to journal and how to get the best out of journaling. Now, it's really important journaling for two reasons. Now, I was speaking to Paul over the weekend about trading psychology. And I can tell you, there's no best friend to you than a journal when it comes down to trading psychology, because it can, if we think about the markets and what the market is, it's the market is an equation, if you like, just a big mathematical equation. And the best way we get an edge with some human emotion kind of like thrown in there. So, you know, maths doesn't always kind of work out on this occasion. So it's not factual in some respects, but it's the best way to get good at trading is to, and you don't need to be good at maths. You just need to be good at some simple arithmetic and
I
follow
prove that
through
every day, right? Every single day I prove that.
Yeah. You don't need any kind of degree in maths. You know, some simple GCSE arithmetic is enough. You just got to log it properly and analyze it properly. But we're going to be showing you how to do that from here on in. So from now on, Sino, we will be journaling and we will be analyzing the trades that we take.
And to answer your question, Sino, as far as actually isolating the different timeframes on the spreadsheet, answer no, but they are all noted on the spreadsheet, if you understand my meaning. So when I take a trade, and I've got to be absolutely upfront with you here, I haven't kept a journal this year. Why? Because I'm lazy. Is it a bad thing? Yes, it is. Very bad thing. And I should kick myself up the Khyber. That's true. But yeah, a little bit too busy. I'll have to put it that way. But Ash is going to keep now in this show.
Yeah.
And frankly, I'm not trading outside this show, apart from the mornings where we get into 4-hour and daily and sometimes weekly charts. And by the time this show comes around, you're going to see those anyway. So there.
Yeah, that's what we got. Okay, so let's have just a quick thumb through the markets right now and see what might move it, because there's a few things happening that we need to be aware of and that we might be able to take some advantage of. So let me share screen here. And I want number one over here. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is silver. If we look at silver and what's happened with silver, let's not kind of get too overwrought with moves against the major move. Now, what is the major move in silver? What's the primary trend in silver? Well, if we think of any trend and the definition of any trend, Alan's saying is TP2 30%, Jeff.
Sorry, mate. I'm completely somewhere else.
Okay, well, come back here.
30%. Okay. I'll try and fix it.
Okay.
I'll have a look at it.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. So, right, here we go. So now we've got this primary trend here. So we've got the primary trend. And if we think about the definition of trend and the definition of trend being a series of high highs, higher lows, or lower lows and lower highs, then what we basically have with this, why is that not on? So I'm just getting my pen fired up here. If we think about this area along here, now that was when we came through here, we had a low down here, and this really is a lower high here because it's lower than this high. If that's the high, this one's lower here, but then we get the higher low, and then we get the higher high. And this one is definitely a lower low down here. So, you know, to try and pick that one up would have been tricky, but that looks like it's gathered everybody in and then shot to the upside. What we definitely have is a higher high here. So let's call this the lower low, because it really doesn't kind of give us a fair reflection of trend. So the first chance we're going to have is, as this one gets this higher high, we're trying to pick up a higher low on the monthly chart. So let's forget the short-term timeframes for right now. We're trying to get this on the monthly chart, and the monthly chart is suggesting that this could come from, you know, to any point where there is current support. You know, where there was current resistance, where there is current support. Is it along here? Well, it doesn't look like it because it's broken through that level. There's another one here. Now that one looks like it's pretty good. It's holding quite nicely. It's got this point here and it's got this point here. So it's got a double touch already. So do we have a potential support line there? Possibly. So we might well have a trade in silver now. Now, if we look at the next one's down here. I'm going to put these this first level in one more time here because it's a pretty good one. Actually, that's just come down a little bit too low there. That'll do. They're just there. It might actually just have a little bit more room to come down there, but it looks pretty good. Now, if we flip this and look at this on, actually, I'm going to have to put this on a MT4 lines. We flip this and put it on these areas here. So we've got this level across here. Then we can now start to pull up other things and sort of like say, right, well, there's some price points here. We got that point there. We got that point there. What are the Fibonacci's doing at this point? You know, what are Fib suggesting? If we take the lowest point to the highest point, there is a Fib here. There's a 38.2% retracement on the Fib. And we've gone slightly beyond that. There's the 50% line just below. So it's suggesting at this stage, if we were to trust the Fib and the prices, it suggests that it's somewhere in this area that there could well be new buying opportunities. Now, we are kind of in that area, so we might well have a buying opportunity right now. Now, if we now flip this to shorter term timeframes, what are they telling us? So we've got the weekly here. Do we need to see maybe just one bar where it rests? That's a pretty big move that we had last week. Now, what can happen, of course, is that, you know, if you get a really big move to the downside, what can happen is the very next week, it just starts to rocket all the way back up again and swallows up the previous price action. That's not really what we want. What we want is something like this, or something that would maybe open, it's tested a low, and it comes back up and closes near the high. If we could get something like that, let me make my lines a bit smaller. Yeah, so it's open, it's come down, it's come back up again, and it tests the high. So we might get something that looks a little bit like a very, very small low test bar, if you like, but it's not a hammer, and it's not really a low test bar either. Now, if anybody can answer me that, then they're in pretty good shape. Why wouldn't this bar here? Now, this is a weekly bar that we're currently in. Why wouldn't that bar there, if it's done this and done that and come and ended up at the high, why wouldn't it be a hammer or a low test bar? Who can answer that? Why that wouldn't be a low test, a hammer? The low test bar might be slightly different, but the anatomy of a hammer certainly would be. Oh, we'll check the CAD Swiss in a moment, Helen, too. And you got any idea why this wouldn't be a hammer? We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. I'll let you guys to think on it. Either way, now let's go down to the next one. So we know that the primary trend is in an uptrend. We know the monthly is in an uptrend. The weekly is under pressure, but we don't really have a downtrend on the weekly. It's just a fly to the upside and come back down again. The first weekly point is this lower line here, so it might come down to 1860. Thank you, Jeff. You got triggered short on the pound, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so mine might come down to there now. Let's go to the daily. Let's pop to the daily. So look at the daily. Now, this is a hammer, and I really like it as well. It's a really, really good one there. Now, what's the 4 hour saying? Now, we've got to start getting into detail. And we've got to start being a little bit more careful about what we might trade here. And if we start looking at this, and what we may well have, we have got the 4 hour. Now, what have we got on the 4 hour? No, that's not the answer. Thanks for plumping in with that, though, Signer. That's not the answer. Seeing as you have now at least attempted to answer, I will give you the answer. Now, it's a pretty bad one in many respects. Don't particularly like when the right shoulder is below the left shoulder here, but we do have an inverted head and shoulders kind of forming. Okay. Now it's not very bullish when you get a lower right shoulder than a left shoulder. If you're going to get a slanted head and shoulders, it's always better if they look like this. So you've got the head down there, and then the right shoulder actually is above. That would be a much better looking inverted head and shoulders. But we do have an inverted head and shoulders down here on the 4 hour. So there is a possibility that we are getting signs and signals that this is now going to be moving to the upside. So now we need to track what else is in the way. Oh, the question, I'll come back to it, Helen, in one moment. I'll come back to it in one moment. What's in the way? Pivots in the way. So what we need to now wait for is the pivot to be broken and retested, which means that many times I will trade the inverted head and shoulders on a right shoulder. I like to trade it down here. But I can't do that on this occasion. And the reason I can't do that is that I've got something else in the way, which is this daily pivot, which means that I can't trade it here. So now I'm going to have to trade the neckline instead. So you see how the rules have to change depending on what the market has on offer. And what we do have here is a market which needs to break through the neckline. And if it breaks through the neckline, then I am good to go. And I will trade this. I'll be quite happy to take some silver. Upside, downside, and then we'll see if we can get some further upside from there. So what we're looking for with silver, we're getting prepared for silver to be trading the inverted head and shoulders, okay? And I'm going to write that up later on. So first idea, silver to the upside, break and retest of the daily pivot at 22, call it 2287. Now back to the question. The question was, if this bar that we currently have going on this week, because we could be waiting till the end of the week for this to happen, right? If this current bar ends up looking like this, that it's pushed down, it's pushing back up again. Now, if it ends up at the high, so what we'll end up with is something that looks like a hammer. And the question is, why would that not be a hammer? And I'm going to tell you. The reason that this would not be a hammer, and it's not about the size, the reason that this one wouldn't be a hammer is that a hammer attempts to hammer out the low. And this isn't a low. This is the low. Now I'll show you where there is a hammer. And it's on the daily chart. Because this here is the lowest point. Nothing to the left, nothing to the right. So because this bar has so far rejected the lowest point in the most recent price action. Yes, the wick to the left, Dennis, you're absolutely right. That's the problem with the hammer. So this one here is a hammer because there's nothing to the left and nothing to the right in the most recent price action. So it doesn't have a load of recent price action around it. So if you see a hammer, the hammer has to be like this one here. Again, doesn't matter about the size. It matters about the anatomy of it. See that one? That's hammered out the low. There's no price action to anywhere near the left or the right of it. Now, I point this out because the hammer's a really, really important bar. And it's my favorite single bar. It's a brilliant bar. You guys learn it as a low test bar, but I think when you trade the low test bar, you can effectively trade something that looks like this that bounces off a monthly pivot, and there could be price action around it. That's not a hammer. The hammer has to hammer out the low. It's got to be that it's got to have price action. It's got to be the lowest point of the price action in the most recent area. Okay, so this one is a hammer. So I quite like silver. Silver suggesting that we should get some upside. It may only be to the weekly pivot. It might be to this point. It might even get all the way back up to there, or it might, which is what we're really looking for, continue a genuine move back up to trend. Now, I doubt that's going to happen. And what I'd quite like to see happen with silver is something that came back and tested the area. So what we got right now is price action, which is just on this trend line. And what I'd really like to see before I was committed to a longer term move is us moving up, moving back, and then moving up. Now, that doesn't mean I can't get a trade in this area, because if that's to happen, then I might well have a fairly decent price. And then if it doesn't come back, I'm still in. So I might still trade this, but that would be the ideal price action scenario eventually. That the retest of the trend line would be the sweet spot. Silver daily or lower, TF. Sorry, Helen, I'm not very good with abbreviations. What does that mean? Now, I don't think, or do I? Let me just see. Does anybody know? Here we go. Now, that puts me in a silver for a long. Oh, yes. 4 hour. Yeah. Silver on the daily or the 4 hour would be decent. So I mean, I'd want to enter on. Oh, I see what you mean for the close. No, hourly. Hourly would be enough for me. You know, if it broke through the hourly, if it closed through the hourly, and it's got to have a decent close. You know, I've got to get it somewhere. You know, in this area, I suppose. If it breaks up to that point, and then comes back, then I can take the trade on the hourly. Good question, and I didn't cover that. Now, silver's my long. Now my shorts, what I quite like is copper. Jeff will be with you in one moment. We'll talk about the pound as well in a moment. Now, remember, this is beta test mode, so it doesn't take in a few other bits and pieces. Copper's one I'd like to sell. Now, you can certainly argue that copper is in a monthly trend to the upside. That I grant. You know, that's absolutely fine. But I think you could also make an argument that this looks different to silver. Look at silver. No, this is on a monthly. Now we'll look at copper. Where is it? XCU. Oh, why have they tucked that in there? I'm not sure why that's done that. All right, we might have to look at this on a short-term time frame anyway. Now with copper, it looks a little different. In some respects, not hugely, but in some respects it looks a little different, and only because, you know, if we do a trend line along here, copper's actually broken through. Now you can see that on a weekly, so it looks a little bit different. You know, not massively. We just had a look at copper on the on silver on the daily chart. Now copper has broken its trend line here. There it is, right there. So it might have a little bit further to run, but I quite like copper for some downside. Now here we have a nice hammer. Now the hammer suggests that we're going to get some upside. It doesn't tell us how long. Hi Paresh. And Swee, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, so this is another hammer, and it's suggesting that we should get some upside. How far does that upside go? Don't know. But again, what I want to do with copper, and I am looking for this for a sell, and you should have it on your Fusion accounts. What I'm looking to do with copper is wait until these pivots are taken out. So if we look at the hourly chart on copper, what I've got is a trend line along here. And again, I'm going to use this trend line to my advantage, because at the minute it's in a very short-term uptrend. It's in a trend to the upside. But if copper can come down and break the trend line and come back and stop around about the monthly pivot area, then I've got a green light to go to the downside. Now, if that's not to happen, then I might end up taking a Jeff style trade. I'm going to call it. I'll probably be completely wrong about a Jeff style trade, but if it was to do something like this and then come back up again, then what I can then do is maybe put an order under a monthly pivot rather than just taking it on price. Now that's starting to look a little bit confused and a bit messy. So let's not worry about that. Let's just focus on the fact that copper has to break through the monthly pivot and the daily pivot and this trend line. And if it goes down and comes back, then I'm willing to take it. The reason I'm not willing to take it here, even though I do see a potential pattern here, and we're at the top end of that pattern, so it would be a valid price point for an entry. There may well be just a little bit of upside left in this one, and given the fact that we are, actually, that looks better than I thought. I'm going to wait to the top of the hour. If this looks like a shooting star, what would be the reverse of the hammer, I'm going to put an order in on copper and start scaling into it. So I'm going to watch this one for a little while, mate. But if this one's starting to shape up, I'm just going to do a little bit more work on it, but I may well take it. So copper's the trade for me today. That's what I'd like to take. Now, quickly talking about the pound, I know you're going to want to have a quick look around the grounds in a moment, mate, but talking about the pound.
Yep.
Now, look at what's happened to the euro, the pound against the euro. Gap to the downside. Now, that is very bullish. That's a really bullish look for the pound. Gap to the downside. We saw a big surge to the upside, a little bit sticky around here. Are we going up? Are we going down? Is this now changing to, is this effectively that, this is a tricky chart to trade, and we'll talk about how we could trade it in a moment, but that is a higher high, obviously. This looked like a higher low down here, but now are we getting a lower high? Certainly looking that way. If this price closes now under here, we could well be getting a lower low, and all of a sudden we start getting a trend to the downside in the euro versus the pound. So I wonder whether the tide is finally turning for the pound. And if we consider what could turn that, it's all about Brexit. And over the weekend, we've had just slightly better mood music from the UK and the EU, suggesting that there could well be a trade deal in the offing. So I think the pound is going to strengthen over the course of the next couple of weeks. Against the dollar, it's a bit tricky because the dollar has probably got just a little bit more upside, but certainly against the euro, I like this pound. Now, if they are to get a trade deal, this thing is going to go fairly quickly. I would have thought it's going to go fairly swiftly. However, we don't need to worry too much. The monthly pivot looks like an obvious target, but we take out that monthly pivot, then there's a big trap door underneath that point, getting us all the way down to here and then potentially lower. Before Brexit, we were here. Then Brexit's happened, we're up here. So the reason I'm not too concerned with the pound is that at this stage, on a month-over-month basis, we are relatively high. So we've got lots and lots of time if they get a deal to get into this. We'll see swift moves on the daily and the 4 hour, but when it comes down to trading this on a weekly or monthly position, we can actually get involved in this one, which is what I will look to do. But yeah, mood music is improving, mate. It looks like a deal may well be done. That there's still some things to negotiate, and I think the UK have destroyed some of the trust between the two parties with with Boris Johnson's ridiculous notion that he was going to renege on international law. But there might well be a trade deal in the offing, which we know will strengthen the pound. How significantly, I don't know, but certainly more significantly than where we are now. So expect some moves in the pound over the next week, mate. It's the 15th. They believe that they're going to have this signed off by, but we should know in the next week how things are going. Certainly from the UK side, there's a lot of optimism right now.
Okay, so I should keep my stops wide on this as much as I can. Do you think?
What on the euro pound?
Mm.
If you are short on it, I think so. Just until we get some more clarity, I think so, mate. Yeah.
We got into this. When did we get into this? Last week, sometime.
Yeah.
Oh, for about the 5th time.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I think all those little bites, the fact you didn't give up on it, looks like it may well pay off. Because I think the pound, as I say, if we get a deal, then this thing is going to strengthen, and I would say quite significantly as well.
Okay, well, that goes along with 2 of my trades. This one that we're already in. Should I have a look around the grounds?
Let's have a look around the grounds.
Roger D. What did I do on fun yesterday, Helen? I can't remember.
Don't know. You're not on camera yet.
Some would say that's a good thing. Okay, there we go. I should now be on camera. Hello. All right. So speaking, we'll just go quickly to the pound. We're in and out of the pound very, very quickly. So that didn't last long at all. And that's, guys, why you need to be treating this as a beta test, because it's a long way from proven successful at this point, although we are still in last Monday's trade as I speak. So that'll fix that one up to start with. If I'm trading the pound today, then I'll probably have a look at this chart and go, look at that level. Back above it. Nice. So I'd like to see this weekly pivot reject price and come back to here. If I look at that on the 4-hour chart. So now that we've broken out of the top, come back and retest the top and or that level here. I'd actually like to see it close above the weekly pivot on this candle, then come back, and that would give me an entry. But I am seeing that we do have a little bit of a base formed here. So a higher low is what we're looking for in the first instance on pound US dollar. But it's not really my watch list. My watch list is pound Kiwi, and I'll get to that in just a tick. But euro pound, yeah, it does look good, I've got to say. Euro is very, very interesting. And what are we short? Euro pound. We're long euro Swissy, both going well. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Swissy's pretty weak. So given what you've said, Ash, I was just about to move my stops a little bit and put some more in the bank, because we have obviously taken profit in this. But I think I might leave it where it is, given what you've just said. I was going to bring it down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea, mate. It depends how close you mean, but it probably needs a little bit of room. But certainly, if there's no deal, or if you know the mood music gets worse again, then it's going in the other direction. But it looks pretty good today.
Yeah, look, I think we're safe in the market anyway. I think I have moved my stops. I can't even remember what candle I traded, to be honest. Was it on the daily? Entry there. I can't remember what I traded. It might have been on even a smaller time frame.
Journal will fix that, don't worry.
Yeah, it will. 3 linears, 1, 2, 3, bang. Hasn't worked on everything though. I'll come back to you on that. I just cannot remember how we got into this, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. 91.51 and 92.12. That'll also help me. 92.51 and 12. $91.51, 92.12. So we have moved our stop. Yep. So we are reasonably safe. So we got it above here. I can see that bar. I might have ended this on a smaller time. Someone will know. I'll go back and have a look anyway. All right. So I'm going to leave my stops where they are at wherever they are. 91.85 at the moment. So we have tightened them up already and got it above that 91.75 mark. So, okay, I'm not going to do anything there. The other ones that we're in, Swissy yen also traveling nicely, but very, very slowly, and starting to think we need a retracement. I've got my stops pretty wide here as well, although we are in profit with our stops. So we're trailing in profit, which is always nice. I don't think this can go back too far, or if it does, it's going to reverse and we're going to get in all sorts of trouble. So I'm going to leave it there for now, but I will be watching this throughout the week. I definitely think we're in for a pullback. If you have a look at this in symmetrical terms, then you can see this level here, and I think we have to pull back to it at least. May well be a scaling point, actually. If we can come back to there around about the 114.30 mark, I think I'll be looking to scale back into this. So more than happy to remain where we are. Euro yen, you guys should still be in this. I am not still in this because I moved my stops too tight. But you should still be in it. And if you are, then I would recommend moving stops to 123.48 or 50, which is that level right there. And the only other one that we got into on Thursday was Euro Swissy. This was a weird trade, you know, and I said so at the time. It's just something that caught my eye, and it caught my eye because on every time frame I look at, I see slingshot written all over it. I've got, you know, high test bar sitting here, then a pullback on the smaller time frames here, and on the daily chart, same thing. It gets up, pulls back, gets up, pulls back, little pullback this time. And we got into this with a pretty small risk of 22 pips. If we can break through the top here, then I think we've got a strong chance of making a quid. And that would probably look like this area here on the weekly chart, 113.50 or something like that. So there's a big reward available here if we can actually kick clear. That said, that's not going to be an easy task because you can see how many times this has tried to get through that level. And of course, that is now further resistance because we've added a trade line to it. But we are through the major one, and that's interesting. And that's the one that I really base this on because we broke above it and we're now sitting above it. That's got to mean something in my humble opinion. And to me, this looks like a false break. So under, consolidate, back above, retest this level here, 106.44. So I think we've got a strong chance there. And as I say, this could go quite some distance, maybe even back up to pre the decoupling of the euro and the Swissy, which happened right there. And on the 1st of January 2015, will we ever forget it? Okay, so to today, I've got Aussie CAD on my watch list. And I'm not even sure why when I look at it today, but when I looked at it yesterday and did my analysis, what I could see was a massive breakout and a breakout of this little range that we've been in here that I haven't even got on my chart. But it is there most definitely in about that level there. So I've actually broken it and now we're retesting it. I think tomorrow morning, if I were to wake up and the daily chart looks like it's come back to retest that weekly pivot, the new weekly pivot, this one here, then I would find it very difficult not to place a short order underneath that. In my strategy leader coaching session tonight, I'm going to teach my guys how to trade these breakouts, these decisive breakouts. It's very, very interesting and quite against what I normally trade. It's the one time where I will trade of a seller bar short. And we saw that, I think I just told you guys about this when we traded euro yen and that breakout there. And that is what we're looking at very, very strongly. It is part of my my preferred candle list, if you like, or my preferred entry list, but I don't really teach it that often. We're going to go through that in a strategy leader coaching this evening. So if you take a mental image of that breakout of that trade line right there and transfer that to, let's say, Aussie CAD, it's not quite the same, but it's very, very similar. And it has carried on with it, as you would expect. And now the pullback here does get me interested. So looking to trade that Aussie CAD short sometime this week. 4-hour chart. Yeah, don't see anything there right now. But I'd like to see a trade line come through here at some stage, get up to the weekly pivot, then get back underneath it, and away we go. I know that goes completely against what we'd be looking for on the longer time frame, which of course is the monthly chart. And the monthly chart is showing me a very, very clear false break of the bigger picture range, which goes from, about the 92 mark to the 102 mark. So on the bigger picture, I'm probably looking for a higher low. Now, of course, that could happen here. It could happen here, or it could happen here. If it happens here, then my little trade on the daily is going to be okay. By the time we get there, we'll have probably 2 lots of profit in the bank if we can get into the market up here somewhere. So I'm okay with that. That kind of works for me. And again, that's what I'll be looking for throughout the week on Aussie CAD. CAD Swiss, I saw, Helen, you asked about CAD Swiss of Ash. It's on my watch list. And the reason it's on my watch list is very similar to what I've just described, but going in the opposite direction. You can see that range that we've been in, and bang, 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 haven't been able to get through it. So if you go back to what I was talking about on Euro Swissy and that very, very prolonged attempt to get above a range, which eventually has happened with a decisive breakout, but that's not really what it is. It's the reason to get excited. But this candle here is also that. This just shot straight through that range, well, pretty much straight through that range, hit the top of it again after a gap in the market this time last week. And then it got a really strong follow through with a retest of the pivots here. And of course the top of the range. Then we got this big follow through. Again, that's a dominant breakout of a range. And that to me smells, or spells rather, I don't know if it smells, but it certainly spells continuation to me to the high side. Can't do it from here because of this candle. If I was going to enter that long off that bar, I probably would have done so off the 4-hour bar. Again, this is one of those times where I can, but it's very infrequent, I've got to say, I can trade a buyer bar in a long position. I'd got to say I'm pretty glad that that wasn't the case at this point in time. And I think there will be a better entry available to us. Pull back to here, I would love to see, where the confluence of trend line that's been broken and weekly pivot exists. We shall see. That CAD Swiss is definitely on my watch list as well. Pound Kiwi, you guys will remember that we were in Pound Kiwi for quite some time, where we got in the market down here and rode it all the way up here. Only took 2 lots of profit on it pretty early, I've got to say, and then wasted all of that 800 odd pips that we were in profit. It was only the third part of the trade, so it's not that disgusting, but I think now have that opportunity maybe presented to us again, and I'm looking for that to happen. What do I need to see? Well, we've got a nice little base that's been formed here on that ascending channel baseline, if you like. Again, same old. I'll be looking for a retest, well, a pullback and a higher low in the vicinity of the weekly pivot would be very, very nice. I'd like to see that. And then we can look to continue on with our quest to get up to the top of the range here. And, I'm talking substantial amount if we can get there. Can we be so bold? No, I think that's the level there, to be honest. Let's say 2.22, which is quite some distance from where we are, 2,500 pips or something. Yep. So if we can get in here on, exactly the same as last time when we got in here. If we can get in here on a pullback at maybe even 100, 200 pips, who cares? 20 would be better, but 200 would be just fine for a 10-to-1 trade to the top here. So I'm still stalking that one, Pound Kiwi, and I will be looking for that one throughout the week as well. And if Ash is on the money, this may well turn out to be a good one. Now, the problem's going to be how patient can you be? Because this may go up to here before it pulls back and gives us the higher low that we need. My counsel would be just to wait on that. Unless you desperate to force your way in here, then just wait for the right setup. It will come. It might come up here. That might be the problem, but no, just be patient. It will always give you an opportunity. It may not be the one you want, but it will always give you an opportunity. And Euro Swiss, we've already spoken about that, so there's no real need to do so. But if you're not in this trade, then you probably need to wait for, again, same thing as everything, wait for a higher low in this vicinity, or weekly pivot and monthly pivot now close together. If the daily were to come back today or tomorrow and join them, that would create a fierce support level. And I think that would be a great place to get into the market long. So that's kind of where I'm at, Ash. I'm actually looking at another one as well. And we've been here many times before also, but this is very close to a setup for me. And it is, yes, dollar yen. You'll note I haven't got the dollar in any one of the 4 watch lists or the 4 currency pairs that I'm watching very, very closely this week, but I'm trying to add one per week. And that one this week is going to be dollar yen, certainly at this point. So I don't need to see too much more, to be honest. And with what, an hour and 13 minutes to go in this candle, if it were to, I'd like to see it get back up to here. That would be best. And if it did, then that would fill me full of confidence to go short at that level. The proximity of this level here is the big concern. But I don't know that dollar yen cares too much about anything, frankly. I don't know how it works. I really don't. It defies description sometimes, and I just can't work it out. But anyway, from a setup point of view, I think I've got it. Again, I've got my nice little 3 little Indians sitting there. I've got a low test bar, a low test bar. Now I've got an approach and a pullback. I would definitely trade that short. Where would I put my stops? Probably above that range. It's only about 30 pips. You've got about 15, half of that before you get to the weekly pivot, which is where you would need to take profit. And then cross your fingers, close your eyes, and see what happens next, because we're talking about dollar yen, and it is a very, very, very difficult pair to catch. Questions? Alan, TP2 is 30%. I'll come back to that in a sec. From Sino, where do you think would be a good entry for long on CAD Swiss and pound Kiwi? From Sanjay, dollar yen review. Okay, there, I've just done dollar yen. To me, it's a setup. Longer or bigger picture, we're still in no man's land as far as I can tell. We bounced off both the top and the bottom in one candle of this descending channel. We're at a strong support level, but we look like we want to go short. Seen that before. Really, there is nothing to say here in terms of which way I think it's likely to go on the bigger time frame, because I don't know. There's nothing there technically that's telling me. But that break and retest on the weekly chart of that level, which brought us down to this level. So we're really expecting that bounce last week. We had to really see that because of the strength of the support underneath it. Then guess where we are? Well, we're in that tight little range, which doesn't really look like a range in there, I know, but those 2 levels are important. And therefore, I see this having another crack at this at some stage during the week. So that's my analysis on it. To trade it, I've just been through that process. So hope that helps. CAD yen, I'll have a look at that. Alan, in a tick. CAD Swiss and pound Kiwi entry. Well, CAD Swiss, I think I said, if we come back to here, I think that would be a super entry. If you are afforded that luxury, it may not be the case, because that's a really strong bar there. That's telling me a lot, as is that one there. I think, any setup that you've got from this point on is decent. Whatever strategy you trade, whatever time frame you trade, I think any pullback here is going to be the goods. Tough to trade at this level because you do have that trend line and, of course, the top of this mini range dead ahead. So that one's a bit tough, but I reckon any pullback is good to enter. Pound Kiwi, as far as entries are concerned, I can't see one on that either yet. Certainly not on the daily chart. We need pullback. The 4-hour chart, if you're willing to take the impatient route, I probably shouldn't call it that, then a break and retest here would be interesting for me. Much rather see it pull back to here and retest this level for a second time before I went. But yeah, this is on the march potentially. And whatever rules you've got around that, I reckon go for it. Untested daily pivot, would I trade it here? No, I'd wait for the pullback. Maybe, you know, a higher low based on this one. So up here, daily pivot test, maybe look at going, then that would be what I'd be waiting for, certainly on today. But bigger picture, get it back to anywhere, frankly. Just a pullback, any pullback, buy the dips. It would be my counsel. CAD yen I'm going to have a look at, and then I'm going to answer that pound question. CAD yen, gone into range. Okay, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. You can see that level through there, right? So I'd probably go with there as the bottom of your range. And we're not quite there yet. So I'd like to see that hit the bottom of that range, then give us a higher low, and then look to go long. For the shorts, interesting. Not quite there on that one. But that one looks interesting. Tough for me to trade here short until we got the breakout. But you can see what's happened here. Bounce off top, bottom, bounce off top. And that's what I say, we haven't yet hit the bottom. If we did, I think the pivots would be interesting. See that bar there? I'd probably like to see that after we hit the bottom. So if we hit the bottom and go back to there, I think that candle would be interesting to trade short. Primarily based on the fact that we haven't been able to get back above that trend line. And that would be then a lower low based on the break and retest of that trend line. So is that, but it's not as good as I would like to see. So bounce off support, back to resistance, give me that bar there, and I would trade it. So that's my analysis on CAD yen. And back to TP2 on the pound. Did I make a mistake? Not that it matters, because it didn't matter jack, actually. I don't think I did. Okay, let me explain it. So TP1, 1.2785, 1.2763. So we've got 22 pips of stop loss, right? Now the current rule is that we take half of that risk. So in this case, 11 pips, and we make that TP1. So half of whatever we're risking between the entry level and the stop loss is what we make at TP1. Now, you will note that we've only got 8 pips of TP1 here. And the reason for that is because of the weekly pivot. We had to reduce our TP1 because had we been entered long, we have only got, wish we'd been entered long, we only had, what was the bar? That was the bar there, right? No, that was the bar. We only had, between entry and the weekly pivot, about 9 pips. So we decided that we would take profit at 9 pips, or 8 pips in this case, rather than the 11, which is the mandate, right? TP2 is actually double the risk. So 1.2785, 22 pips, go 44 pips, add 44 to your entry, and hopefully that gives you 1.2829. It does. So that one's right. Tick. Going short, which is unfortunately what we had to do because the market told us. Something at 1.2763, stop loss 1.2785, again, 22 pips of risk. So therefore 11 pips of TP1, take 11 from 1.2763, 1.2752, and 44 pips from 1.2763, which is double your risk, gets you 1.2719, and looks like my arithmetic is correct. So I'm not sure where you're getting the 30% from from Alan. I'm really not sure. So I hope that's explained it to you. And if not, then I'll have to come up with something else. So if you could possibly let me know, that would be good. Okay, I don't see anything more in the questions box.
Okay, mate. Do you know? I've got an opinion about this CAD Swiss. I like it actually. I think it's a good spot by everybody. So if you don't mind, I'll just take the screen just for a moment.
Sure.
Because I do like it. I think, and I will be. I'm going to put some orders in here. Whether I do them now or not, I'm not sure. I can do. But if anybody was in the session last Thursday where we were talking about money management, then I'm going to be doing it in the same way. So there's a couple of things to deal with here. Then the way that I will do it, and I will cover it further later on when we get to the US session, and how much it's going to cost. But I would like to put in an order here, and I'll explain why in a moment, at 0.6925, that kind of area. And my next order I'd like to put in on just above the weekly pivot, 0.6913. And I'd be putting a stop loss down here at the monthly. However, that stop loss won't probably be triggered because I'd come out if we start to break down here. Now, what I've done is, now if we start from the top up and have a look at, I might actually get this order in here. Let's get that order in. Actually, I'm going to get an order in, and I'm just going to come down to these lows here. Stop loss down there. Okay. Now I'm going to scale in, so I'm going to get in relatively light here, just to get us started. Pending order, it's going to be a buy limit, and I'm going to get 0.6925. Stop loss at 0.696889. And I'll write these up in a moment. So let's place that one. Now, I'm going to put another order in here. And with this one, I'm going to put in 0.13, so slightly more. And as I say, if you were at the money management class the other day, then you'll know why I'm doing it this way. So 0.6913. And again, stop loss in the same place at 0.69889. Sorry, 0.68. Nine. There we go. Right. So that that gives my two orders. Okay. Now let's talk about why I like this trade. So, firstly, when we look at the weekly chart here, let's change this to clean for a moment. When we look at the weekly chart here, what we have is a really nice engulfing bar. You know, we're looking for this kind of thing, and a really nice engulfing bar down there. So I'm looking for it to kind of like, you know, at least have another push to the upside from this point. Now, what dangers do we have? Well, I'd say that's the most clear and obvious, just to the top of this point here. So the take profit is going to be at 0.6995 probably. Would be an area that I'd want to start taking some profits. So I'll mark that area off. And we'll fix it up later in the later show. So that's the first thing. So the weekly chart is looking pretty good, I would say. I think we've come down, possibly, you know, we've had this train tracks reversal, so it's looking a little bit negative there, but it looks pretty good to me for some further upside. So I quite like that on the weekly. If we look at the daily looks like it could be under a little bit of stress here, but we haven't really got to this point here. And you can see that the second area is my favored area. You know, if we are going to start moving higher, that would be my favored area to start moving up. Switching then to the 4 hour, just simply because there is some support here. That's why I've taken that first trade. However, there's a little bit more to it than that as well. If we bring in the pivots just to see things a little bit easier, you can see between this point here, and this point here is last week's price action. So I can see the full range of last week, meaning the low is here and the high is here. Now what I want to see is what that looks like on a fib. And if I put in the fib from the lowest point to the highest point, I see that there's just this little 23.6% retracement. And can you see how I've got entries here on the two fibs? The 50% is a bit lower, but the 50% is going to start breaking down my trend line. So if it starts hitting 50% and that's it, then I'll probably come out. But you can see there's a 23.6% retracement here and a 38.2% retracement here. Now, not only is it the move we've had so far, but it's also last week's range. So it's normal for things to come back into a range, and I'm just looking for it to just to tuck back into last week's range. And as it tucks back into last week's range, just seeing if I can get some trades on here. So that's the reasoning behind it. So we got nice areas of support here. It's been proven once. Can it continue? Maybe not. But we got a second area of support here. It hasn't yet been proven, but it does look like on this 4 hour chart that we are trending to the upside. So that would be an obvious area that we could get caught at again. There's a weekly pivot there. There's the 38.2% retracement there. So that's the trade. Now the first trade's been triggered, as you can see. So we'll see what happens by the end of the week. But I like it. I think that was a really good pick by whoever first suggested CAD Swiss. I think it was Helen actually first suggested CAD Swiss. But yeah, I like this one. Further pushing to the upside. Interesting to know, Jeff. What's the heat map saying for us today? Is the CAD relatively strong, the Swiss relatively weak?
So you're asking me for a heat map. I can give you a FinViz.
Yes, so, that's what I mean.
Is that what I mean? Okay, I can do that. Hang on 2 seconds and I will just locate it. FinViz, where are you? Let me things open at the moment. 2 seconds, I'm getting there. I'll answer your question as well in a minute, Helen, regarding my fund thing from yesterday. I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, just Helen. Yes, it's flying down, but it's flying down on a 4 hour chart. Now, if I'm kind of and if I'm going to get an opportunity, then it's got to come back to my price point. You know, whether it flies down or whether it just dips down. And if, you know, this bar is 4 hours long, it might end up looking like this. We just don't know. But I don't worry about things like that. I'm interested in price, and I'm interested in the bigger picture. And the bigger picture to me looks like you've picked a good one. So I quite like it. I'm quite happy to take these trades. I've got a nice weekly bar here. It does suggest that we could get some further upside. Yes, it is flying down on a 4-hour chart and on the shorter term time frames, but it's not on this one. On this one, it looks quite gentle, doesn't it? So I'm just trying to get a decent price point off. I'm going to try and trade this week over week rather than anything else. I need those shorter term timeframes to give me a slightly better entry. I don't really want to enter at the top of this bar if I don't have to. I prefer to enter somewhere within the bar and then see if it takes out the high and goes, because I get a better price point. So I've got to use those shorter term timeframes, and of course they're going to look a bit more dangerous than anything else. So it may work out, it may not. But if we're focused on the weekly the weekly chart looks pretty good. So I've got 2 entries that I'm quite happy with there. But let's see what happens anyway. But I grant that is flying down.
Righto. We're having a look at the relative strength chart that I like to look at, which is there now, I think. That should be it.
I'll go down with it to go up, or in a weekly. So you will go down with it to go up.
Ship's captain.
I don't fully understand, Helen. It's just about price. It's just about price. The price looks good. Looks like a good price point. And the evidence here is that the price point is a good price point because it's bouncing. It doesn't mean it's going to hold. It means that there are orders there. I'm just trying to put my trade in where there might be some other orders, and orders that could actually work out in my favor. And I'm not saying they will, but when you see the price bounce, it suggests that the orders here are back in balance, if you like. That the sellers haven't overrun it yet. Now, they may overrun it, and it might come down to here, but hopefully we'll go. I see you're saying, yeah, like overbought, oversold, similar. Yes, yeah. If it's looking a little bit oversold, then it would look like a pretty good price point. A pretty good area to get in. Of course, something can become more overbought or oversold depending on why it's got there. And I always say this about shares. Nothing's too cheap and nothing's too expensive. But certainly at this point, it looked like an area of support. Yeah, I like to get in early, Helen. That's just my way. Just to get in when I can, but I keep stops nice and wide. You see that's the way I do it. That's the way that I can get away with getting in a bit earlier, because I keep my stops nice and wide. Sorry, mate. Now you were going to tell us about this Finviz. What are you telling us here?
Okay, well, you're after relative strength, yeah? CAD and the Swissie.
Yes.
Versus the dollar. They are very, very close together today, with the CAD slightly outperforming the Swissie. If we go back, we can't go, well, if we go back a week in trading time, you can see that the CAD's been the worst versus the dollar, and the Swissie is about midfield, about midfield, let's say. So on that basis, the CAD is coming closer to the Swissie. If you go back to the month chart, you will see that the CAD has been stronger than the Swissie over the period of a month. And if you go back to a quarter, you can see that the CAD is still stronger than the Swissie over the period.
Okay. So what we're getting from that is that price action's in our favor over the longer period. So you said over the month it's better, over the quarter it's better, and over the week it's better.
It's only today.
Only today. Yeah. So that's pretty good, right? I mean, it's we got price action in our favor over a longer period. And has there been anything fundamentally that can change that? Well, I don't really see it. The only thing I've got really is actually thinking about is oil. Oil's having a real struggle, isn't it, at the moment? So oil could pose a bit of a problem. But aside from that, I quite like it. And
if we go from risk on to risk off to risk on to risk off, which we have been doing, it's kind of fair, isn't it?
Yes.
If that were to change dramatically into a risk-off scenario, then the Swiss is going to outperform the CAD, one would think. So those are the things that I would be watching. If the market sentiment does change to risk-off suddenly and dramatically, then I think CAD Swiss will struggle.
Yeah, I agree. So there we go.
Now, Helen, you were asking me the fun thing that I was talking about yesterday. Well, what I was actually explaining was, and I can't remember the chart, to be honest, and I did say that it stood out, and I used the expression like dog's balls, which is an accepted and worldwide expression, if not certainly Australian. And actually what it means...
it's an accepted expression. It's in the Oxford English Dictionary, and the Queen uses it all the time.
Does she? Well, she should, because her corgis, if she's got males...
She does, yeah, only males, only ever buys male corgis.
Would be displaying that quite clearly. And, that's the sort of thing that I actually meant. If you can see on my screen now, when the expression says it stands out like dog's balls, that's exactly what it means. They're just obvious. It's an obvious thing. And normally the charts won't have glitter on them, it's true. But that seems to be some sort of a trend at the moment. So that's pretty much what I was talking about.
I can't believe, to illustrate your point, you Googled a dog with glittery balls.
Well, why not?
To illustrate your point.
Well, it's far easier than describing it, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
So, Helen, the whole point is it's obvious, right?
Yeah, obvious, very obvious.
Now, Alan, I better get off that before we get Paul. Paul will be absolutely having pups at the moment, I would think.
Yeah, anybody tuning in right now? I've just found this new trading show that
it stands out like dog's balls. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Alan, you're asking. Okay, I understand now. Your point being TP2, you take 30% off at TP2 in the current pound US dollar breakout scenario. Mate, I've left that up to the individual, frankly. What I am doing is at TP1, as you say, I'm taking 50% off and moving my stops to safe place. In other words, the same amount of pips that I'm taking at TP1, I'm moving below or above the entry, if as the case may be. But at TP2, I'm moving stops to entry, and depending on how I feel, if we're at a strong resistance level, if we're going long, for instance, I might take another half of the half off, or otherwise a quarter, or I'll just let it run if there seems to be plenty of room. And that's pretty much what I've been doing with this. So if it looks like there's trouble ahead, then I'll take another half off. And if it doesn't look like there's anything in the way, then I'll keep that half going as long as I possibly can and trail as we are doing at the moment on last Monday's trade. We haven't had that opportunity yet because we just got smashed out very, very quickly today. And I think that said, and I'm sure Paul will be in touch with me very, very shortly saying he's got an email from YouTube. I think, bid you
from Caesar. What's the guy's name?
Who?
The dog whisperer.
Oh, yeah, him. I don't know. What is Romero? Is it Caesar Romero?
Caesar Romero. Yeah, it might well be.
Or is he a singer?
Milan. Caesar Milan.
Milan.
Yeah, Caesar Milan.
My apologies.
Emails from Caesar
Milan. Whoever he might be. Actually, I think he was a singer at some stage. But he's got 2 dogs. I know that.
He does that. Okay, mate. Well, let's wrap it up. We'll be back at 1:30. So let's wrap it up, and we can come back, review these trades, put them in, write the journal up later on, and see where we're going with everything.
So I'm going to have to do that next week, aren't I? Put entries in the journal.
I'll do it all, mate, if you want. I'm quite happy, and then I'll send it over to you. Not
Happy
a
days.
problem. As long as you give me the numbers. Just
Not
if
a
you just note down the numbers just in case I miss them on the day.
The numbers are yours. All done.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic.
And so am I.
Okay, fantastic. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in as always. Good show, and we will see how these trades work out. We got quite a few little bits and pieces running, so we'll see how we go. Keep an eye on copper, and we will see you at 1:30. And if we don't see you at 1:30, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 5 to 8.
That's a date. Don't be late.